At some point, many people realize their energy for maintaining connections no longer replenishes the same way. Instead of reaching outward, they begin conserving, allowing distance to form without explanation. Others often interpret this shift as withdrawal or assume something must have gone wrong. Yet the behavior can grow from an inner system quietly trying to regulate itself. What looks like cutting ties may actually be an attempt to breathe again. If that rhythm resonates, stay close as we continue. When silence becomes lighter, then connection. Most people think silence is emptiness, something to be fixed with noise and company. But for some, silence becomes lighter than connection ever was. It weighs less than explaining yourself again, less than bracing for disappointment. At first, the quiet feels unfamiliar, like stepping into a room after the music stops. Then something shifts. The air clears. Thoughts move without interruption. There's a moment, late at night, when the phone stays still and the chest finally loosens. Nothing is being demanded. No one needs reassurance. This isn't withdrawal born of bitterness. It's the relief of setting down a heavy bag you've carried too long, without realizing how much it was costing you. The reliable one who finally needed something. They were always the steady one. The person others leaned on without asking how heavy things already felt. Being reliable became an identity, almost a reflex. Then one day, they needed something. Not much, just presence, understanding, a pause, and the response was thin, delayed, or absent. That moment didn't explode. It quietly rearranged everything, like noticing a chair wobble when you finally sit down. Later, alone in a familiar room, the realization settles in. Reliability isn't the same as being valued. Cutting people off didn't start as anger. It started as clarity, a soft, sad understanding that support had only flowed in one direction for a very long time. When the brain starts counting the cost, we like to believe connection is free, that love and loyalty exist outside of cost. But the brain keeps its own ledger. It notices the emotional spending that never gets reimbursed, the canceled plans you understand, the feelings you downplay, the exhaustion you normalize. One evening, staring at nothing in particular, the math quietly completes itself. The body feels it first. Tight shoulders, shorter patience, a subtle dread before every interaction. This isn't cold calculation. It's self-awareness arriving late. When someone pulls away, it's often because the cost has finally exceeded what they can afford. Not dramatically, just enough to make staying feel heavier than leaving. Learning that connection ends in abandonment. Some people don't fear closeness itself. They fear how it ends. Over time, connection became a pattern with a predictable conclusion. Attachment followed by disappearance. Effort followed by silence. You start noticing how goodbyes arrive disguised as busyness. In small moments, the lesson sharpens. A message left unread. A call returned too late. Sitting alone after trusting again. The thought forms without words. This always ends the same way. Cutting people off isn't a rejection of intimacy. It's a response to its aftermath, a way of stepping away before the familiar drop. Before hope once again turns into something you have to grieve quietly. Why leaving first hurts less. From the outside, leaving first looks harsh, calculated. But inside, it feels like bracing before a fall. When you leave first, the pain is contained, predictable. You control its shape. being left, on the other hand, shatters in unpredictable ways. It echoes. It questions your worth long after the person is gone. So some choose the cleaner wound, the one they can tend themselves, alone at night, replaying nothing instead of everything. This isn't about power. It's about minimizing damage, about choosing a pain that doesn't linger. Leaving first hurts. It just hurts in a way that feels survivable. The blueprint formed too early. These patterns rarely begin in adulthood. Long before boundaries had names, something was learned. That care was inconsistent. That attention could vanish without warning. As a child, you adapt. You observe. You memorize emotional weather. That blueprint doesn't disappear with age. It simply gets quieter, more sophisticated. In adulthood, cutting people off can feel sudden to others. But inside, it's familiar, like following instructions written years ago. Alone in a dim room, you recognize the feeling. You've been here before. This isn't immaturity. It's a strategy that once kept you intact. It just never got updated when the environment changed. Boundaries that slowly start, looking like walls. Boundaries are praised until they make people uncomfortable. At first, they're gentle lines, saying no once, taking space occasionally. But when those lines are crossed repeatedly, they thicken, harden. Without noticing, boundaries begin to resemble walls, not out of hostility, but fatigue. You stop explaining, stop negotiating. One day, you realize no one can reach you anymore. That realization carries both relief and sadness. Like locking a door during a storm and noticing the silence afterward. Walls aren't built because someone hates people. They're built because softer structures kept collapsing, and rebuilding them every time became too exhausting. Refusing indiscriminate access society encourages openness without discernment. Share more, connect wider, be available. But some people learn that access should be earned, not assumed. Refusing indiscriminate access isn't arrogance. It's selectivity, born from experience. You notice how not everyone handles your inner world with care. Sitting quietly, you replay moments where honesty backfired, where vulnerability became currency for others. Pulling away becomes a way of protecting something fragile, not hiding it forever, just not handing it to anyone who reaches. This isn't isolation as punishment. It's a quieter form of respect for your own emotional resources, reading the exit signs early. After enough repetitions, you become fluent in subtle cues, tone shifts, delayed warmth, half-present conversations. You read exit signs long before the room empties. Others call it pessimism, but it feels more like pattern recognition. Sitting across from someone, smiling politely, you already know how this ends. Cutting people off early isn't dramatic. It's preventative, like leaving before the rain starts, because you recognize the smell in the air. You're not assuming the worst. You're remembering the past and choosing not to reenact it again, even if that choice looks abrupt from the outside. Data, not pessimism. This isn't about expecting disappointment everywhere. It's about trusting accumulated experience. Every interaction leaves a trace. Over time, those traces form a picture. Some people pull away because that picture became too clear to ignore. Alone with your thoughts, you review it all, not angrily, almost clinically. What you gave, what you received, what never changed. Cutting off isn't cynicism. It's responding to information. Data gathered slowly, quietly, over years. When hope keeps colliding with the same outcome, stepping back isn't negativity, it's adaptation. A way of honoring reality instead of arguing with it. The loneliest part came before the cut. People assume the loneliness begins after the cutoff, but often it peaked long before. Loneliness can exist inside relationships, conversations, even crowded rooms. It's the feeling of being unseen while present, of speaking and sensing no one truly hears you. The cut didn't create that loneliness. It ended it. Sitting alone afterward, there's a different quality to the quiet. Less sharp, more honest. The absence feels cleaner than the company that preceded it. This doesn't mean solitude is painless. It just means the pain is no longer mixed with confusion. And that clarity brings a strange, steady calm. Why isolation feels safer than rejection? Rejection attacks identity. It makes you question what you are. Isolation, chosen deliberately, does not. When you isolate, the rules are clear. No anticipation, no waiting. No hoping someone will show up differently this time. Sitting alone, the silence is predictable. It doesn't flinch. It doesn't judge. That predictability feels safe to a nervous system tired of sudden losses. This isn't a belief that people are bad. It's a belief that uncertainty is costly. Isolation becomes a controlled environment. Not ideal. Not permanent. Just stable enough to breathe without bracing for impact. Choosing yourself is not coldness. From the outside, self-selection looks selfish, detached. But choosing yourself after years of overextension is not coldness. It's recalibration. You notice how much warmth you gave away without receiving any back. One evening, alone, you realize something simple. You feel calmer without explaining yourself. That calm isn't indifference, it's relief. Choosing yourself doesn't erase your capacity to care. It preserves it. It ensures that what remains is offered intentionally, not drained out of obligation. This choice isn't about shutting others out forever. It's about finally standing on your own side, without apology. Survival, not selfishness. There's a difference between wanting less and needing less. For some, cutting people off is survival, a response to emotional overload, not a desire to punish. When the system is overwhelmed, it simplifies, reduces inputs, protects core functions. Alone in your space, you notice your thoughts slowing, your body resting. This isn't cruelty, it's recovery. Selfishness takes, survival conserves. The outside world may never see that distinction, but internally, it's obvious. One state expands at others' expense. The other just tries to keep something vital alive. Quietly, without spectacle. Keeping the flame alive. What's often misunderstood is that withdrawal can be an act of preservation. Some step back, not because they feel nothing, but because they feel too much. Connection, mismanaged, threaten to extinguish something essential inside them. So they shield it, like cupping a flame in wind. Alone time becomes a shelter, a place to remember who you are without interference. This isn't the end of connection, it's its careful pause, a way of ensuring that when warmth is shared again, it's genuine, not forced, not depleted, just enough to be real. Self-preservation, not the end. Cutting people off sounds final, absolute. But internally, it rarely feels that way. It feels like a chapter break, a margin of white space. Self-preservation isn't a conclusion. It's an intermission, sitting quietly, you sense that this isn't about never connecting again. It's about reconnecting differently, later, with discernment, with steadier footing. The door isn't locked, it's just not wide open anymore. And that distinction matters because it leaves room for growth, for repair, for something new that doesn't require you to disappear to be tolerated. The quiet that keeps you whole. In the end, the quiet becomes a companion. Not loud, not dramatic, just steady. It holds you together when too much once pulled you apart. Alone in that quiet. You aren't broken. You're intact. The world may interpret your distance as loss, but inside, there's coherence. A sense of self no longer stretched thin. This quiet doesn't promise happiness. It offers wholeness. And for someone who spent years fragmenting to belong, that can feel like enough. Not forever, just for now. Sometimes cutting everyone off isn't about anger or pride, but about realizing how heavy certain connections had quietly become. Like carrying conversations that no longer knew how to rest. When the noise finally stops, there is a strange calm that doesn't feel like victory. Only relief mixed with something unresolved, as if the silence itself is asking to be understood rather than defended. If any of this feels familiar, it may not be because you want distance, but because part of you learned to survive by choosing when and how you are seen. There is a kind of inward listening that begins once the outside world goes quiet, and it often reveals patterns that were forming long before the separation ever happened. And sometimes, that same instinct doesn't just pull away from people, but from visibility itself, from the quiet decision not to explain, not to display, not to turn inner life into something public. In that space, another question starts to take shape, one about those who move through the world without posting their faces at all, and what that choice might be protecting beneath the surface.